in another beautiful North Carolina day, and it rains things from the trees, right? Things from the trees. Our deck, our shop deck is full. So step one, clean the deck. Very exciting.
But necessary.
It makes life easier and less likely for us to trip and injure ourselves. Hello friends, welcome to another episode of the Urban Homesteading channel with Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and Elpida. We're here in the homestead on another nice, dreary North Carolina day. The sun is not shining. It is kind of cool, which is nice. Not too cold, not too hot. Fantastic. So, Mrs. DIY and Elpida, what does picket fences, a 4x4 post, and an ancient Greek dagger have to do with each other?
I don't know.
This is a display that we built for our son's dagger. This is a replica of a 650 BC Greek weapon. So we use the remnants of a fence picket we had, which is cedar, and remnants of a 4x4 we had, which is it cedar or it is something else? I don't know. But they match together. And we built this nice display for our son's weapon. And then look at this nice repeatable stuff. And this is a set of six.
Okay.
Hey, this is a family show.
This is a set of 6 corner shelves.
Mm-hmm.
So both these items are for gifts. I know our son doesn't watch our channel, but if the other person happens to watch our channel, I hope you enjoy them, right, Elvina?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure you figure out this were for you.
At some point, yeah.
But in any case, these we use out of plywood,
Mm-hmm.
and we left the ply sole because we like this look.
Yeah.
Now you can buy this cheaper, but it is particle board, which is going to not last very long, and it looks like particle board, right? So you can buy this, I think, for about $20, 6 for $20, but they're not close to the quality that this is. As every time we do, stick around, we're going to show you every step of how to build those if you want to. And since we built 2 projects today, I'm going to put up here some time marks of, or here I guess, some time marks of when this project starts and when the dagger display starts. So if you're only interested in one of the 2, you just can go to those time marks. And today we start our projects with
2 feet by 4 feet plywood.
There you go. It's pretty standard. You can get that at any of your woodworking outlets.
And when you do that, try to get a piece that doesn't have a lot of voids. We have started enjoying the look of the plies on plywood, and we like them visible. If you don't, of course you can edge it. There are things you can do to make it non-visible, but for our purposes, we decided we like it visible.
And this particular piece is a 3/4 inch ply.
So what are we doing today? We're having big goals. We want to build 6 corner shelves and 1 short display. Can we do it? We don't know. We haven't done it. We're going to have one of us from the future tell you if we did it or not in a moment. But for right now, we don't know. Let's start. As it is our practice, we're going to raise the blade just above the surface, because we find that as the safest way to cut pieces of wood. Again, this will not prevent injury, but it will not take your finger off, right? It's going to be painful, but if your finger by accident hits here, you're not going to lose a finger. All right, so we are going to start by cutting this in half. We're not sure that's the right way of doing it, but we're never sure if that's the right way of doing it. on a saw this size, this is about the largest piece you can safely cut by yourself, right? So you know, I mean, a 4 by is it 4 by 8 or
Yeah, the 4x8 sheet we couldn't do here.
Well, you can do it, but you will need or 3 people. It is not
Which
safe
we
by
have
yourself.
done, it's just not fun. And since the big box places do cut those down for you, probably a good idea.
Unless you need the whole length.
Right.
All right. Next step is we're going to subdivide this piece. And for our dimensions, what's our dimensions, Elpida?
12.
12 by 12. This is not a safe way to perform this cut. You should not use the miter gauge and the fence at the same time. If you watch very carefully, you're going to see that the wood moves a little bit, and if you're inexperienced, this can be a very, very dangerous situation. You should never use the fence and the miter gauge at the same time. And I don't know if it was visible on the camera, but the piece wants to move, and you need to be very careful watching what is happening, because if it moves too much, the blade will catch it and throw it at you. So that is do not do this way. I just couldn't figure out a better way to do it, primarily because we cannot find our bigger miter gauge. We'll find it at some point. We know it's somewhere around here, right? But this is do not do it this way. We just did it because I feel decently comfortable to do it. So we did it. So we have 6 blanks. We just finished cutting, and we need 6 shelves. So this is going to be the basis of making our shelves. Now they're going to have a little bit of decorative elements, like there's going to be a curve, actually 3 curves on them, and 1 corner. So I would say we'll need to find the worst part to cut off on each piece. The dimensions, our dimensions are what, 6 inches?
12.
12 inches.
Roughly 12.
Sorry, yeah. The dimensions depend on you and your space, right? I mean, or potentially if you want to get fancy, you can have them all different size, and they can increase or decrease in size as you go up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can have them, again, there are a lot of options. That's the fun of the DIY process. In our case, we want them all very similar size. They're not going to be identical, I'm sure, but they're going to be very similar. So we start by making a mark from one corner to another, because we want the inside corner to be in the same spot as the outside. Does that make sense? Inside, as we're looking at us, the corner, it is not a corner. What is it? I cannot speak.
It's an inside curve.
Right.
Because basically this is going to have 2 arms to it.
Right.
So an arm here and an arm here.
And if you didn't want the curves, there would be a very straightforward 2 cuts, right?
Right. So you just cut it and make it square. But we're making a curve here, and a curve on the inside.
So you need to find that spot that it corresponds to the corners. So you have your nice inside curve. So that's how we're doing it. And we're winging it. This is both the concept and the first time we're doing it. This did not provide as good a cut as I was hoping. As clean, I should say. It was a very good cut, but it was not very clean. A Forstner bit will probably do a much better job here. So if I was to do this project again, I will use a Forstner bit here instead of using a hole saw. Hole saws are known for not doing a good job, but I thought I would be able to make it look much better with sanding, and that unfortunately was not the case. No matter how much we sanded, you can still see imperfections that add to the rustic nature.
So what we did was to create the inner curve for the shelves. This is going to be the body of the shelf here and here. There's going to be a slight curve on this end, a curve on this end, and this is the inner curve. And this was the easiest way to do it without fighting our bandsaw, because we can use the bandsaw to cut this curve and cut that line, and likewise over here.
So we're using our table saw for the straight cuts because it's much faster and much straighter than our bandsaw.
Will be cleaner.
Right, and but it's cleaner cut. So it's faster, it's straighter. We're using the table saw for the straight cuts. We use the hole saw for the opening here, which makes the inside radius. And of course we are freehanding with a bandsaw the outside radii, right? Now if you don't have a bandsaw, you can use a jigsaw for this. You can even use an aggressive sandpaper and just, this is not really a lot
Round
of
it
material,
off,
you know.
yeah.
You can round it off. So we're going to do the other two.
And because these two sides are not the same width, we actually have to adjust the table saw. They're just a little bit different to make sure that we're not cutting off the side.
All right. We have to do that 5 more times. So it's rinse and repeat. We're not going to bore you for that. We'll be back when we're done with all 6 pieces. The bandsaw is clearly a very good choice here, but you can achieve the same result with a jigsaw or even with aggressive sanding. Additionally, if you have a scroll saw, it can also do the same job. And if you have a hand saw that it is intended to do coping, a coping saw will also give you very good results to achieve this cut. So a bandsaw absolutely not necessary. We just happen to have this old one, so we're using it whenever we have a chance to do so. So we're using the first piece we cut as a template for the rest of our pieces. We are tracing the cut, as you can see here.
And if you're using plywood, or even if you're not using plywood, you want to make sure that the grain is aligned between the two pieces.
Your shelves will just look more cohesive if you're making sure that everything is
Right.
aligned.
So the next piece we need to mark is the center hole, right? So we're going to use, again, our piece from our offcut, and we're going to make a mark. And just like that, we have 6 uniquely similar pieces.
Uniquely similar.
Right. So now some sanding sessions will commence. But the general shape, as you see, is here, right? And we are pleased so far.
Right.
We hope we don't mess up anything.
So the idea is that they will be in a wall corner like this, and then because they're softened, if you happen to run up against them, you're not going to jam yourself into a corner.
And it looks better than just 40
It
degrees.
gives it some
45, not 40.
some nice visual interest as well.
40 degrees.
40, yeah.
It's a new angle.
Some random number, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so the next step really is a lot of sanding, I think.
Yep.
So we're getting ready to sand. We are not sponsored by Hard, but we definitely have enjoyed using this sander ever since we got it. And you saw us earlier using a Hard drill, and we enjoy the Hard products. Again, we're not sponsored, but Hard, if you're interested in sponsoring us, we are open to the
Also,
idea.
there's 2 Hart vacuums, the full-size plug-in vacuums we have in the family, and we've really enjoyed those as well.
Yeah, we
It's not a shop tool, but they've been very good.
well, vacuums can be soap too.
They can be, but this is really made for interior. It's actually graded like to help with pet fur and that sort of thing, and it's been doing a great job.
So for the first pass of your sanding, use 60 or 80 paper because you want a somewhat aggressive removal of material. For your final sanding, you can go to a 120 or 160. Again, this is plywood. This is not mahogany. You just want to make it as smooth as you can, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Let the sanding begin. You can see immediately what a good job with that, right? So our sanding is done, and we're overall quite pleased with the little shelving units we built it here. So the next step will be to go to our paint station and try a couple of stains to see which one we like the most.
So we have,
Alpida bought some new stain, and we have some existing stain, right?
right, so the new one I bought here is called Special Walnut. This is a Varathane brand. Again, we're not sponsored. We just purchased it because that's what they had at the store.
Because it was cheap.
That's what they had at the store. And then the other one that we already had existing is Minwax English Chestnut. They may be kind of similar, but we would just want to see which one we like better, or if we don't like either one of those. stirring, get all the solids from the bottom. And I've got a scrap of our plywood to see how that's going to stain, because all the woods will stain differently. I see a lot of stuff in there that's not integrated yet.
So here goes the test. Again, of course, here you can try as many finishes as you'd like. The sky is the limit.
Okay. That's the English chestnut.
The chestnut di Inglesia.
This is called special walnut.
The Dongato specialty. We're making languages here, people. No disrespect to any language that this may or may not sound like. I'm just being humorous.
Like to have fun with languages sometimes.
Yes. I like both, actually. What do you like more?
I'm like, what happens if I blend the two?
Nothing will happen.
I just want to see.
They're blended. That's what happens.
I just want to see if the color,
You know,
like,
actually, they kind of go together.
yeah, they kind of do.
That's nice. I like that.
Do you like the blend?
No, I like either of them. I like the finish. But I like it that, are you going to go deeper than that, or?
Probably not.
Okay.
I think I'm leaning toward this one,
All
just
right.
with the slight reddish tint. Okay.
Excellent. And as always, the stain immediately changes it, right? It's amazing. And as we said before, we enjoy looking at the ply. I know some people find it objectionable, but we like, as long as the plywood is good, it has no void, right?
Yeah, it just gives it some variation.
But if you do mind it, of course, you can edge it. And there are different ways you can edge it. You can buy edging in the store, or you can cut very thin pieces and just attach it there with glue. I mean, there are different ways to do the edging. But you can see here how nicely the plies stain slightly different and give it that very, really nice look, I think.
Just a little something.
Something.
Something, yeah.
Now, how we're going to attach them to the wall? We just purchased some simple L brackets, which were supposed to be here, but Amazon said that will be here by 10 o'clock, which hopefully by then we will have this posted. So
Yeah.
it will be a little late, but just ideas. You can use little L brackets, assuming you're not going to put anything really heavy on them.
Right.
Or you can actually make brackets, right? I mean, you can.
Yeah, you could totally make some brackets. We've done that before.
So there are many options on how to attach them. The idea was to show you how to do this and get reasonably similar results. Again, we are not the production shop. We are not aiming to make everything look exactly the same as the other thing, right?
Right, but they have enough continuity in them that you know they're
Right, they were supposed to be a set.
right.
And yet they're different enough to know they were handmade, which I think is the key, right?
Yes.
We're fortunate to be able to stain and paint outside, so we do not need a lot of respiration protection. We do not need a lot of gear. However, if you cannot be outside for these processes, ensure that you have a respirator, as these chemicals can be very damaging to your lungs. Again, we're doing it outside to protect ourselves. And of course, the secret to success is to let the stain dry. So on this display piece, we're using all existing material, all scraps, right? So I found this cedar scrap that we already have put 2 45s. This is going to be our base. So I want to put 2 more 45s on each end.
Okay.
To people that are worried about my safety and their safety, keep in mind this is a perspective issue. My hand is not very close to the blade at all. It is that the camera is next to my hands, and between my hands are between the camera and the blade. And that gives it a much more finished look. Now, 2 tips. Whenever you want to do a 45 on an edge, you see now we know that we are clearing the top, right? So put your piece on your blade. And if your blade is below the edge here, you know you're not going to come through.
Okay.
And the other is you align where you want to cut with the tooth there. Does it make sense?
Yep.
Now, in this specific piece, dimensions are not important, but if they are, you mark the dimensions there, right?
Yep.
Okay. And this is how you take a very simple piece of wood and make it to a display.
Mm-hmm.
So you see all the 45s face each other. And this looks a very, very nice. It will need a little bit of
Sanding on
sanding
these two
because
ends, yeah.
my blade needs replacing. It's not a very...
Yeah. But still, it made a fairly clean cut. That's
Yeah.
just a little bit of cleanup.
So we're trying to figure out how we want to do this.
We have a piece of scrap 4x4, and I kind of like the way the grain is playing into our design. So I want to and this is a scrap piece that we've used for something else. It's a cutoff. It has channels in it. I want to change that square channel to a round channel. So I'm just going to use something I have that's round. I'm going to make an outline.
You can use anything around here. Bottle caps work great, as do a lot of caps of jars, etc. Whatever you have available will work.
I'm going to cut this out.
Okay.
So we'll get rid of that, and we're going to use the bandsaw to cut it out.
Again, if you don't have a bandsaw, there are other ways to achieve this cut. They are not going to be as easy, especially with a small piece. But you can definitely use a hand saw, right?
Right.
Forget what they're called, a coping saw. A thin blade in your bandsaw will provide you with the ability to make much tighter turns. We used to have a much thicker blade on the saw, which allow us to make much thinner curves and much straighter cuts, but we could not really make that tight curve you see here. So by replacing our blade and putting a much thinner blade, we now have the ability on our bandsaw to make fairly tight turns and fairly tight circles, something we could not do before. And look at the sparks here. This is an old type saw that does not use modern bearings. So in the spirit of experimentation, we're going to experiment some more. We created a pattern we didn't, Mrs. DIY did, but we're going to cut and then reverse it to have a mirror image on both sides, right?
Yep.
So let's start that process. You can see the advantage of the thin blade here as we make a very complex curve cut with ease and very high accuracy.
All right, so I have the piece that I cut off that we said we were going to use as a template. And basically I'm going to flip it over and put it on this side so that I'll have it lined up. And they'll be like mirror images of each other. And I got it pretty close with my initial pass. Freehand, it's not quite as good as a mirror image, depending on what you're doing.
Freehand is something I cannot do at all.
So I'm just drawing the curves. And so this is my new outline that comes here.
Okay. So since this is going to be not only a finished piece but a display piece, we want it well sanded, right?
Yep. And I'm using a combination of a rough grit to get some of the ridge lines out and a fine grit to make it very smooth.
Excellent. So those of you that have been our followers for a long time, you're familiar with the box of beautiful things to which we go from time to time when we need something to embellish a project, right?
Uh-huh.
What you don't know is the artisan tab. And here's our artisan tab. And this is a tab that has things in it that serve a similar purpose as the box of beautiful things. It has a variety of little things in here that we can use for various projects. And right now, for our display case, I want to find something to make a softer holder upper.
Holder upper?
A holder upper, yes.
That's a technical term?
That is a technical term.
Okay. So you're looking in here for a holder upper?
Correct.
Okay. Let's see what we find.
So the artisan tab yield two options. We have some self-adhesive cork and we have some pieces of leather. And we try to decide which of the two materials, and then if it is leather, which color of leather we want to use more. So once we decide that, we're going to get right back with you. This is a very rough looking edge when we cut it in our...
Laugh? It's a very laugh looking edge?
Rough.
Rough. Oh, rough. Okay.
So a little bit of sanding should fix that, or a lot of sanding as the case may be. And our sanding expert is Mrs. DIY. So she loves sanding. And you can see almost immediately it knocks the roughness out. No more roughness. Look at that. Just look at that.
No more laughter.
No more roughness.
No more laughter.
No more tears.
Right.
Much better already.
Yes, very beautiful. Excellent. This is our first dry fit, and we are pleased with what we see. But now we're going to mark where those two posts are, and we're going to attach them to the base with screws from underneath. So we're going to mark them, make the two holes from the top, and then go from underneath and tap them in. So we have them in the approximate position we would like to have them. Again, nothing is attached right now. This is a dry fit. And once we are pleased, we are going to scribe the location of those two pieces, and then we're going to make some marks from some pilot holes. I cannot speak today, so we can attach them with screws from the underside. So the only thing you need to be careful here, because these have a taper, you don't want to go close to the taper and potentially have your screw saw through. Because then Mrs. DIY will have to do the piece again.
And so we're also just using a punch here to help mark where we want this to be.
And you're sure that there we're good?
Yep.
Put the piece there. Here is an easy, foolproof way to make sure that your screws will not blow through your piece. Just put the screw that you're going to use next to your piece, as we're doing here, and calculate for the remaining piece of wood underneath it.
So the idea is to screw down because we've marked them from the top, and then when we're attaching it, the screws are going to come up from the bottom and into this
Correct.
piece. Okay?
All right.
So we'll repeat the process on the other side over here, and we'll come back.
All right, and here is the method we're using.
So we're just putting the screw just through enough on the other side so that we can feel it and see it, just enough.
Just the tip.
That's going to help us align the other piece here. Go ahead with this open up. And again, just enough so that we can make some alignment there.
See the tips of the screw saw, and we're going to press our other piece in the screws. I think it come a little this way. There you go.
Well, I'm a little too far forward based on the back one.
Okay. once you're happy with your alignment, you press it.
And you should have 2 divots on the back. And there they are. Now you're going to use the same drill bit you used before and drill those 2 divots.
And the reason why we're doing this is to ensure that the piece doesn't split.
This is very soft and small wood. All right, and now you're going to use the holes you made to align them with the tips of your
The screws that we
the screws,
that
and
we
one of you
installed
puts
earlier.
pressure on one side and the other. If you're by yourself, you can use a clamp to achieve the same thing. So the clamp will hold the piece to the base, and you can just use the screws to attach the piece permanently to the base.
And again, this is a soft wood, but I want to make it flush with the thing. So with
All
the-
right.
I think this one could go in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Use it a little more.
Good.
It is important the base is flat. You can drive it in a soft wood as we do here by using the screwdriver, or you can use a bit that will make a little dibble that will drive it all the way through. Whimsical video, the product that we saw you finished is yet not finished, it's still drying, but we are ready to put some poly on our display piece. Alright, so here we're going to start with the poly. Poly is not as dramatic as stain or paint, but it does bring the grain up, right?
It does.
And it protects the piece from UV damage and also water damage. As you can see, the poly brought out the character, really nice character for the wood. And we're not going to poly where Mrs. DIY's finger is, which is where we're going to be resting the piece, because we want the glue to adhere very well there, as we are going to put something to protect the display piece and also make this looking a little more luxurious. Is that the
Yeah.
appropriate term? Now here, of course, to match the core, you can stain it a dark color. You can do a lot of different things. I think on something like that, even Suzuki Bank will be fun. Yes?
Maybe.
So again, one of the fun things on DIY is that you can have it finished any way you want to match your decor, or if you're making it for a gift, to match the decor of whoever you're giving it to. You can see here how the poly brings the details in the wood out, brings the grain out, and makes it look much better than it looked before the poly, in addition to protecting it from moisture and UV. So you can do any finish you want here, as we said before. We chose poly for our specific piece. So the next step is to cut. We decided to go with leather, by the way, but you can go with cork. Again, it is a personal preference. And we're going to put the leather on top of the piece to protect the dagger and give it a more finished look. Even this very small piece of leather makes the piece look more luxurious and more finished. So we love the idea of putting leather on it.
So just trimming this up a little bit to make it fit a little more nicely in the space. And some pretty sharp blades are going to be helpful here if you're using leather. The cork cuts really easy. The leather is a little bit more tough. Obviously, it's skin. So then once you're happy with that placement and the fitment, you can use that as a template to cut your second piece and put that into the other holder.
Right.
And we'll come back when we have that all done. Okay, so now we're gluing the leather to the piece. We'll just put a little bit on the piece. And this is just a regular old adhesive, a craft adhesive. Spreading that around. Not using our finger for this one because of the nature of this particular glue.
Unlike wood glue, most other types of glue have chemicals in them that can be very toxic and very harmful to you. So avoid using your fingers with those glues. This is an E6000 and it is a very good adhesive. It becomes tacky very quickly, so you don't have to wait for too long.
We're We're not sponsored by this company either. It's just another one in the bucket of glue.
Bucket of glue.
See, it's a bucket of glue.
So
Okay.
we have the box of beautiful things, the artisan tab, and the bucket of glue.
Not of, but O.
Oh.
Bucket O glue.
Oh, bucket, oh, glue.
And as you can see, that just gives it a really nice little finished look and is going to make a nice soft resting spot for this particular piece so it doesn't get damaged or scratched or anything like that.
I must admit I did not expect such a big impact from two little pieces of leather, but it makes the piece both more finished and definitely more functional for the purpose. Okay, so Mrs. DIY in Elpida, what does picket fences, a 4x4 post, and an ancient Greek dagger have to do with each other?
I don't know.
This is a display that we built for our son's dagger. This is a replica of a 650 BC Greek weapon, and we built it using a fence post. I always mess
A
it up.
fence post, yes.
A cedar
Fence post and a cedar fence picket.
No, that is a 4x4. So
And that's the
we
picture.
screw it up. Let's do it. So cost. This for us was $0 because we built it using scraps we already had. But if you were to buy it, this is a $3 material, right? And I don't remember how much we bought the leather remnants, but they were very inexpensive, maybe 99 cents.
Something like
It was
that.
one of those things that we bought,
Little pieces of scrap.
not knowing what we will do with them. So this is one of the things we found. So let's say between $3 and $5 you can build this easily. And again, this, as we said in the beginning, plywood is expensive these days. You can actually use something like cedar to build this, and it will be even lighter, but we wanted something more sturdy. So this was what for the sheet of plywood we bought.
The sheet of plywood was about $30-ish, I think.
And we used about 3/4 of it.
Yes.
So let's say $25. Again, not extremely expensive projects, but this is more expensive than you can buy it at Amazon, but much better material.
Right. And then dependent upon the hardware that you want to use, that can increase your cost. So just keep that in mind. That's a
Right.
variable as well.
Now, the Amazon hardware, I believe, is plastic, and what we order is metal brackets,
Right.
which are much less likely to break and drop your valuable displays and break them, right?
Right.
Now, these were the two projects for today. I hope you enjoyed them, and if you did, would appreciate a thumbs up. If you didn't hit the other button twice, share, like, subscribe. Let us know what else you might want to watch in future episodes of the Urban Homesteading channel, and if episodes like the one today are things you enjoy. From Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY and Elpida, let's build something together.